Hi, welcome to Module 1. Module 1 is on understanding of addiction as a chronic disease. Some of this information may challenge your beliefs, and that's okay. We invite you to be open-minded, be willing to hear the information that you're about to be presented, to challenge some of the beliefs that you may have. You may not have them. You may have them. If you don't have them, great, thank you. This module might provide you with a little bit more information around addiction and recovery that you can share with others and those you work with. And if you do have some biases, that's okay. We all have them. Hopefully you walk away from this short module with an understanding and a willingness to look at substance use disorder as a chronic disease. Remembering always that addiction affects not only just the individual, but the families and communities and society. Addiction is a public health crisis. I pose this question to you: when is judgment ever helpful? And sometimes judgment is helpful when we need to make a determination as to whether or not we're safe or not. But when was judgment ever helpful when shaping an opinion about someone or something else? Was there any value to it? Did it offer you any benefit? And if so, what was that? Our stories around substance use disorder have been shaped by the world around us. And we'll look at that in a couple of modules. But we hear things pretty regularly, both in the field of recovery and substance use disorder and in community partners or loved ones. And some of the things we hear is they keep making bad choices. Or maybe if you're in law enforcement or in emergency room setting, you said, "You again, you frequent flyer," and you say this to your colleagues. You keep doing this to yourself. You keep making bad decisions. And what I ask you to think about is, if you said those things, and if you say those things now, do you know enough to make informed decisions? When we speak, it doesn't matter what we're speaking about. If we don't know enough about something, is it fair to be pretending that we do know enough about it? That's causing harm, especially in the human service field. So I ask you, do you know enough about substance use disorder to make an informed decision? You've heard the saying, innocent until proven guilty. I'm offering you this mantra: capable until proven incapable. Let's assume the best intentions of the individuals that have fallen ill to substance use disorder, instead of passing a quick judgment and saying things like, "They'll never get it. This is the lifestyle they chose," or calling them terrible names. Let's assume the best intention of those who are struggling and trying to survive in life. I was one of those people. The hedges were bet against me, even in the halls of Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor shared with me after years of working with me, and I finally achieved some sustainable recovery, that the bets were hedged against me. I've heard people say to me, if I was going through what you were going through, I would need a drink. My life and my divorce was not an easy one. Custody was challenged every step of the way. Maintaining sobriety in my situation was extremely difficult because it became to be the only coping mechanism I knew. And people judged me, and people stereotyped me, and I was discriminated against. And here I am standing with you today, 11 years and 1 day sober, advocating for those who have no voice. Recovery is possible. I fell ill to the disease of addiction, just like 23 other million people in this country. Why do people use drugs? We only see the tip of the iceberg, right? People use drugs for pleasure. People use drugs to escape. People use drugs or drinking. I will use the term drugs throughout this training to refer to both drugs and alcohol. Is there anybody watching this video right now that has never taken a drink to relax or unwind from a very hard day? I'm guessing many of you are saying, yes, I've done that, Ginger. And that's what people start out using drugs or alcohol for. And then somewhere along the line, they cross the line into substance use disorder. People use drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism, as a relationship builder, especially for youths. People use drugs and alcohol to try to fit into social settings and social circles. And so what we see in society and what we shape our stories around is the tip of the iceberg, right? What we can see on the surface. A lot of people use drugs for trauma, from past trauma experiences, for mental health issues, and to find relief from the mental health issues and maybe the despair and the voices in the heads that is a continuous loop. People use drugs or alcohol to bury the memories of childhood neglect and to learn how to cope with life on a daily basis with these past experiences. People use drugs or alcohol as a result of their environment. If children grew up in an environment where substances were used regularly, frequently, and habitually, chances are that that child has learned the behavior that using drugs or alcohol is the way to navigate life. It's the only thing they've ever been taught. Some folks use drugs or alcohol to find relief from emotional abuse, from the negative language and names that they've been called day after day after day. You're worthless, you're stupid, hey dummy, when are you ever going to get this? Compounded without resilience and coping skills, that kind of language seriously affects somebody's self-worth, self-esteem, and self-confidence. And they find relief in drugs and alcohol. Some folks use it for pain relief, not even knowing that what the type of pain they're experiencing isn't what we would call normal or acceptable to seek medical treatment from. And so they turn to drugs or alcohol as a means of relief from their pain, and at some point cross the line into addiction. The last statistic I heard was that 4 out of 5 individuals that suffered from opioid use disorder became addicted to opioids as a result of a prescription pain medication. Some people use drugs and alcohol to relieve stress, and it becomes a continued pattern of behavior. And what I'm inviting you to do is stop looking at the bad behaviors on the tip of the iceberg and consider for a moment, what's the journey that that person and that individual has gone through that led them to this chronic disease now of substance use disorder, also known as addiction. Substance use disorder is not a moral issue. Substance use disorder is a chronic disease. People don't choose to be addicted to drugs. People don't wake up and say, you know what, today I'm going to become an addict or an alcoholic. Today I'm going to fall under the power of substance use disorder. It's not something people choose to do. Substance use disorder is defined now as a chronic disease. It wasn't previously. It actually was in the 1890s, and then something happened. I can't speak to it specifically, with one of the larger organizations where it was deemed not to be a disease. So it was taken out of the DSM-5. Fortunately, now it's back in. But chronic diseases are defined broadly as conditions that last 1 year or more and require ongoing medical attention or limit activities of daily living, or both. And for those of you who have any experience with individuals experiencing substance use disorder, you may recognize that some of their conditions may require medical attention, limit their daily activities, and or both. No one volunteers to have asthma, diabetes, or cancer. Those are chronic diseases. Those are just some of the chronic diseases that we know about and have in our world today. Like asthma, diabetes, and cancer, substance use disorder is a chronic disease that requires ongoing monitoring. Substance use disorder is not a disease that can be cured in 1 day, in 5 days, in a 7-day detox, or in a 28-day treatment program. Even after the 28-day treatment program, for those who choose to take that path, recovery and addiction requires ongoing maintenance and monitoring. Treatment can initiate recovery, but treatment does not maintain it. So I want to invite you to think of the basic foundation of substance use disorder. And to do that, we want to look at, what is substance use disorder? What's the definition? Substance use disorder is a substance-related addiction disorder, is defined as a condition where a person takes substances that are pleasurable at first. They serve a purpose, provide relief, help me navigate my emotions, help me forget the pain of my childhood and those memories. But ultimately, the use of this substance become a compulsion. And what I mean by become a compulsion is somewhere the individual with continued use may cross the line into substance use disorder. When it becomes a compulsion, when the drug craving becomes a compulsion, that's an irresistible urge to behave in a certain way against one's conscious wishes. So when we cross the line into substance use disorder and the drug use becomes a compulsion, that's another word for craving. That's when the craving takes over. And the craving is happening at the subconscious level. When I say to you, when you have a craving for a cookie, that craving is like borderline subconscious conscious. And then you make a conscious decision as to whether or not you're going to have the cookie or not. In substance use disorder, the compulsion and the craving is 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 times worse than what those without addiction experience when they say, I want a cookie. I really, really want a cookie. And what happens is many with substance use disorder don't even recognize that they have a problem or the extent of the problem and its effects. And this is what happened to me. I can remember many, many, many times in the morning. I was a 24/7 maintenance drinker, is what they called my type of alcohol consumption. And I would get up in the morning and I would go straight to my coffee pot. And behind my coffee pot, there was a bottle of wine that was hidden. And I can tell you quite vividly, and sometimes I shake when I share this story, is that I can remember holding the bottle of wine in this hand and my coffee cup, because I had to disguise it, in this hand, pouring the wine and saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want this wine. And then following it down with continuing to drink it. And all the while saying in my conscious, I don't want this. But my subconscious craving was powerful. It was a million times more powerful than my conscious brain. Considering this information, how does this relate to the work that you do or challenge your current beliefs? I'm going to pause the recording for a moment and give you an opportunity to reflect on this question. Welcome back. I'd really be curious to hear what some of your thoughts were about the information presented so far already. Is it challenging your beliefs? Are you being open-minded and willing? I know you are. Information presented so far already. Is it challenging your beliefs? Are you being open-minded and willing? I know you are. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. We'll pull the PowerPoint back up. Hey there, this is Ginger. I hope you're learning a lot from this series. I'm asking for your help in supporting my tireless efforts. There's a few ways in which you can support me. Tell your friends about this video series, subscribe and like each video here on YouTube down below, make a donation on my website, or invite me to deliver this training in person. Together, we can all be part of the solution. Hope to see you soon, and thank you.